That got Yuri's attention. Hello,
Hi,
I'm Marianne,
and I'm Jack.
and we're here to tell you what is fucked up about what's going on right now. The coronavirus just happened out of nowhere, and we've been watching our world crumble before our very eyes.
I only laugh because, uh, the special interests that be are the ones that are really laughing while everyone is suffering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people are dying. People are unable to trust the system that has always been broken, but now is being exposed to be broken more than ever before. And the whole world is watching as we plunge into the depths of this absurd crisis head on because of some poor choices made by our leadership.
Yeah, we have been told time and time again that the moral thing to do and the cost effective thing to do and the sustainable thing to do is just too unreasonable. And to do the expensive thing to do that is unsustainable, unethical, and I don't know, one of those words that I just mentioned that I already forgot is
unsustainable and unethical.
it's unsustainable, unethical,
Unconscionable, abominable.
Yes, all of that. And that is the reasonable thing to do. That is labeled as the moderate thing to do when it's actually the radical thing to do.
Yeah, it's radically preposterous.
It's radically preposterous to leave how many people off of medical insurance who are underinsured and uninsured? Millions of people in the United States, at least, and
as always, we're going to bear the brunt of a health crisis, a pandemic. This is of global proportions and is blown out of proportion even worse because of how ill-equipped we are as compared to the rest of the world, right? Kyle Kalinske from Secular Talk was saying that maybe, thank you, we're just second to Iran in how ill-equipped we are medically to deal with the coronavirus.
Yeah. No, seriously, we are totally unprepared. We are just now locking ourselves in on lockdown, and all of our schools are being shut down. People are panicking at the grocery stores, purchasing everything that they can that's a canned good, and purchasing soap and hand sanitizer and other bathroom amenities. But the thing is that while this is also happening, the stock market is crashing and the feds have been injecting trillions of dollars.
Because that's what gets their attention, really.
Yes, exactly. They've been injecting $1.5 trillion last week, then $700 billion, and the Federal Reserve has cut their rates to zero. So if you have any money in a savings account, you will literally get $0 out of that savings account because it doesn't matter anymore. And then they put another $500 billion just today, and there was literally like you could see
it worked for like an hour.
Yeah, you could see in the stock market like that 500 billion went beep, and then it went
exactly.
So
it's frightening what is happening economically.
Yeah, a total of $2.7 trillion in a matter of a week or so, upfronted like that, like not a blink of an eye.
And like, it's one thing to be self-interested. Let's say that you had a lot of money in the stock market, like you're filthy rich, you're self-interested, all you care about is protecting that capital. But it's totally another to be connected to a government and a corporate, like a corporatocracy, this system that we've got going that is totally oligarchical, that is fueling your economic losses that are happening here, right? It's no longer just self-interest. It's actually just stupidity. Because if you really knew what you were doing and were selfish, you would be like, hey, let's invest in our workers by giving them paid sick leave and so on, so that they can continue to yield profits for us. But because of the absence of an adequate health system, now even the 1% is hurting more than it would like to be.
Yeah, I mean, boo-hoo for them. Like, I pray that all of their stocks vanquish to $0, just like the Fed rate.
Vanish,
vanish at zero. I want all of their trillions to be worth zero. But not really, because all money will be worth nothing, and then we really will be fighting over everything. So, in all honesty, like, this whole thing has played out to be kind of a learning experiment, because we've never really like gone through a situation like this ever before. So when people are like going out, and this is the United States, like we don't have any like, we don't celebrate anything except for like shooting fireworks, which is not really a thing. And then also like decorating your house with lights, which is like also not really a thing that you do yourself. We don't.
Where are we going with this?
What I'm trying to say is, actually I lost my train of thought. But
we don't celebrate anything.
So yeah,
we lack, as a society,
we lack culture,
soul.
We lack soul. We lack anything that is like can be tied down to a American ethnicity, if there is such a thing. And there's nothing. It's completely devoid. And yet actually the only thing that we do is spend and purchase. Like that's the only culture that I can think of.
It's a custom
that is uniquely American, which is using your money to buy things and have them delivered at your door, or going to the mall to go purchase things and then drive them back to your house.
It's a consumption obsession. Even now, like if you think about it, people, like in the face of the coronavirus, people their coping mechanism for dealing with the stress is just
buying stuff.
Yeah.
Buying stuff in bulk.
Out the shelves.
And buying as many things as possible.
Panic buying.
Yes, that's one of the things.
Is that a thing in other countries?
Probably because there's doomsday people, and like the end of the world, like the nuclear like fallout, like there's gonna be those people, and there's those people here too. But another thing is though that while like people are like panic buying stuff, you would think that would like make the economy do well, but it's actually not, because the only people who are benefiting from that are maybe the owners of all of these markets, and maybe the owners of the foods that you purchase, because there are intellectual property patents on an apple, for example.
Because it's genetically modified.
Yeah. But other than that, like, you got your planes, they're not doing so well. You got all of your other businesses, they're not doing so well, because everything is literally shutting down. Everybody's being quarantined, everybody's being told that they need to work from home. If it's an information service job that you can like do online, or if it's a physical labor job, then you either gotta tough it up and do it and kind of like be exposed to this disease or virus. And also, if you have it yourself and you don't have paid sick leave, and if it means getting a paycheck or not, you're gonna work and probably get in contact with the disease and or spread the disease even further, and also probably not have access to the healthcare needed to, or maybe not access is the right word, because there is access, but it's not affordable.
It's not accessible. It's just not accessible to the vast majority of people in this country, and it should be.
Yes.
Because the pandemic, this virus is not going to discriminate. It will get you no matter, like, didn't Bolsonaro, or maybe an aide to Bolsonaro, get the pandemic? Didn't the health minister of like one of these who knows exactly actually get it, and their doctor? Like, you can take all the precautions you want, but all it takes is for you to come into contact with and the virus is airborne. Like, one person who maybe was at a large gathering and wasn't careful enough or didn't know that they were infected. And this brings us to I think the reason that we want to share this video in the first place.
So the reason that we're sharing this video in the first place is because, as we've been talking about, and it's haphazardly gone in this weird route that we haven't gotten to actually pin down until this very moment.
Here it is.
It's, if we all just stayed inside and not go to work, right,
this stayed inside, self-isolated, didn't go to work, didn't participate in the ridiculous consumer culture that has inflated corporate profit in the first place,
don't
and
buy.
Enabled
no Amazon, no nothing.
Then we could have so much leverage if we just united in that non-violent disobedience. I mean,
yeah, so right now
it's one hell of a kind of non-violent disobedience.
Yeah, so
who knows if we can even equate it to non-violent disobedience that's happened in the past, or like revolutionary acts that have happened in the past. But Americans are such big consumers that if we suddenly quit consuming, like Amazon and all the big pharma and food companies, maybe not pharma, especially not right now, would just shrivel up and die, and we would get whatever we wanted, whether it was like comprehensive criminal justice reform, or I guess the issue at the fore right now is just a complete overhaul of our medical system.
So what we did,
our healthcare system.
Yeah, what we did was we stumbled upon this in the event of this crisis. It has forced us all, and we've stumbled upon some gold basically, metaphorically. Because when you have a pandemic like this, the U.S. Congress then comes sort of to the rescue with a temporary sick leave bill that only affects 20% of the workforce. But then you have the governors and the mayors and all of the employers who then make their own decisions that could be good decisions as well, that say, hey, you know what, we're going to put a moratorium on all of these things.
Mortgage payments,
rent payments,
bills,
evictions. And what we then see in response to this pandemic is, hey, all of these things that we thought were such a big deal, they're just being, okay,
you can have it now. So it really was,
it's off the table. Poof, it's gone. It's like it never existed. And it only takes all of the American people to just stay inside and not buy things
not comply with
with
consumer culture.
Have the stock market go down in the first minute that it opens so that it has to shut down because it's so horrible, and then completely inject as many $1 trillion as you possibly can, but it still goes down
because we're just refusing to comply. This
exactly.
can be a global consumption strike, and with that strike we could set forth demands like we need a Green New Deal, like we need massive healthcare reform,
yes,
like we need immigration reform, we need major criminal justice reform, we need reproductive protections for people no matter what race they are, and we need to lift the chains from so many Americans out there who live in the greatest country in the world but don't get to really partake in the American dream.
Yeah, and maybe that's precisely why it's the greatest country, is because
it was built by slaves.
Yeah, because
and indigenous people, indigenous genocide. And
you just stand off of the pile of people suffering, and just so that way you can reach a new height.
I'm so sick of it. These days, even before this pandemic came around, but now especially with this pandemic, which is going to happen over and over again as our climate changes and as our ecosystems collapse. You think this is going to just be a one-time thing and then no more in our lifetimes?
No.
Bernie Sanders said that the level of this pandemic is unprecedented, to the point where he's never experienced anything like it of this magnitude in his entire life. He's 79 years old, right? Well, I bet that we're going to see it again in 20 years when we're 40 at least.
We're probably going to see something like this in 10, 20 years.
It's just going to keep happening. It's not going to let up anymore.
And it may not even be virus or health related. It'll be climate related.
It'll be something that just causes
and I bet
lives to plummet in quality and cause our economy to just collapse again.
Yeah, everything's all intertwined. It's not a coincidence that more and more viruses and diseases will come up out of thin air, and it'll be because as the global average temperature rises annually, all of these things are evolving at the same time that we are existing. And these things will then adapt to the new normal. And some life won't adapt to the new normal. And the fact that those animals and life forms won't be living anymore, that then disrupts the whole ecology. Like, it will disrupt everything, and then new things will take its place, and then it'll cause mutations, and it'll just fuck up everything in the entire world. And maybe we'll be next, but that's our job to not make that happen. And one of the ways that we can make that happen is investing into the future and trying to reverse our carbon emissions and trying to be smart about this thing and proactive.
Whenever it seems like it's going to be a long time before this thing finally passes. What were you saying? Maybe 18 months at least?
Yeah, so this coronavirus is from many sources are, saying like it could last 18 months.
Okay, well, after the Great Recession of 2008, well, there was a movement of people who were dissatisfied with the quality of life that they had as a result of the financial crisis, and that was the Occupy movement. And thanks to the Koch brothers funding and things like that, also people, good faith people, participated in the Tea Party movement as well. Two different factions of people who were both hurting in a very similar way, both part of the 99%. And the Occupy movement and the Arab Spring and all these different movements would have flourished and radically transformed our society and economy if it had not been for a militarized, coordinated FBI crackdown on all encampments all around, like, all the cities, and a huge media spin of what was going on, like, oh, these people have no idea what they're talking about, they don't even have a platform. Yes, we did. We had a very clear platform that wealth inequality in this country was too great, and it was time to end that. The feds and the oligarchs alike were shitting their pants and didn't know what to do except to turn to our massive military for aid to get the power out of these people's hands who are mobilizing in tent cities and literally wreck tents to the ground and raze them to the ground. If you think that kind of revolution, probably even on a more massive scale, is not going to happen as a result of all of the economic displacement that people will experience as a result of coronavirus, then I'm sorry, but you have another thing coming. Joe Biden, Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, like any establishment Dem, first of all, you bet any Republican in our Congress as well, and of course the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump, you guys all have a fucking another thing coming if you think we're not going to retaliate, because guess what?
Yeah.
Like, people's lives are being destroyed and they're being shaken, and it's not just a matter of, oh, we've lost all of our finances, we've lost
no. How can we just inject $2.7 trillion into a failing stock market
and then it's gone like that?
Yeah, how can we just do that? How are you gonna pay for it? How are you gonna pay for it? How are you gonna pay for that? No, nobody asked that question.
People talking about Bernie Sanders, like, how are you going to pay for Medicare for all? We could take maybe like a fraction of what we spent in the military and just pay for it that way.
College tuition, gone.
Something
medical
of this
debt, gone.
Magnitude.
College debt, gone.
It's not...
With that kind of money.
You can't even begin to help a catastrophe that would occur if all of us collectively in the United States and maybe abroad as well decided to put our feet down, put our collective foot down.
Or wheelchairs if you don't got them.
Exactly. And stop consuming everything that we have been brainwashed to consume. This is unlike the nature of any other revolution that I know, because other revolutions in the past involve, well,
involves killing people. That's how it happens. It's very like barbaric.
They could be violent, or even if they're not, even if they're non-violent revolutions, like they're incredibly multifaceted, complicated. It involves movements of people across the generations doing all kinds of different things. This could literally, and I'm not saying it should be only one tactic. You should diversify your tactics when there's a revolution. This could literally just be the act of doing nothing. Yeah. All we need to do is do nothing, and that would crush the people who've been crushing us for forever.
Now, when we say do nothing, we don't mean literally do nothing, because you're going to need to eat, you're going to need to get water and all of that. Like, you're still going to need like your basic needs. You're still going to need to like actually live and prosper and
help others in your community.
Exactly. So there's a lot to do. The only thing that you're not doing
outside that system.
Exactly. So it would be not relying on the capitalist system. And what does that even look like? Because we're so brainwashed in this country and trained to support it. And so basically we're saying that we're smart. We know where it hurts the most for the wealthy people. So you see, because in a revolution, we're not calling for, we're not calling for people's heads. We're not calling for that. We're calling for their money. And, they have so much money that it's okay to take 100th of that. It's okay to take 2% of that. And, they'll be fine. They'll still be buying jet planes and buying countries in Africa or something like that. They can still buy countries. They just won't buy this country. Okay? Like, this country is off the market. Okay?
It's not for sale.
It's not for sale.
It was for sale because
you'll just have
did stupid things like panic buying.
Yes.
But
yes.
No longer.
To all the wealthy people, you'll just have to get by with discounted countries at the thrift store. I'm sorry. You won't be able to buy designer brand
babies.
Designer American countries, it's just not for sale. So what if I don't buy gasoline, if I don't buy goods at the market, at the grocery store, if I don't buy t-shirts and clothes and all of that stuff that would ordinarily be bought and sold at any market, any store, any place, basically
you're gonna hurt.
Yeah, basically they're gonna be like, okay, well, two things. The business is going to go out, and that also means people don't have a job. Now, that might seem bad, but the thing is, if everyone participates, just like we are right now, you can't go to work because you're being forced to not go to work because you can spread a disease. So you just think of it that way. Oh, I can't go to work because I'm going to spread a disease, and the disease is capitalism. So if we just don't go to work,
I like that.
Yeah, if we just don't go to work, then you can't get fired because you don't have a job in the first place. So if you don't have a job, like a paid labor kind of job, you'll still have a job, just not the kind of job that that you think you do now.
And to build on that, you know what? I'm sure that some people watching us right now, if there's anybody out there watching us, might be thinking to themselves something along the lines of, well, if I don't have a job, how am I going to pay my rent? And how am I going to pay my bills? Bitch, there are more empty houses out there than people who don't have homes out there. Especially with this coronavirus going around, we are hearing inspiring stories of people who have been homeless, houseless, just evicted, all these kinds of things, reclaiming empty, like, houses owned by the government just sitting vacant, because everyone has a right to, like, basic things like shelter. Come on.
Yeah. So,
and in the same way, we could create our own, like, alternative economy that just puts a huge bird, like, to the establishment, because we don't need them as much as they need us, and that is the point that we are trying to make here.
Yeah, absolutely. And if that seems like a shock to you, and it really does, like,
this is a shock to us too.
Who wants to live in a cardboard box? Nobody does. Okay, we're not filming.
There are so many homes out there.
There are a lot of homes, and but there's also a lot of shopping centers, and there's also a lot of roads. There's all kinds of places, and by not engaging in this cultural lifestyle, you create of consumption, it means you're free to create a new one. And that's what I have been wanting to see in this desolate country, is to see an actual culture come out of the ground, completely original, not a knockoff of some other culture, completely original. And to
well, I mean, there are plenty of people of color who already have their own
yes, totally
vibrant cultures going on,
and eventually those cultures, I'm sorry to say, will get wiped out in this country. That's just how it is.
At the rate that we're going.
It's like, in the generations, if you stay in this country long enough, you'll lose your language, you'll lose your sense of your of who you are, and you'll be an American.
And this whatever new culture arises as a result of this hypothetical but hopefully soon to be real revolution that we're talking about, of anti-consumerism, I believe the culture should include values like active anti-racism, environmental protection, ecological protection, right? Especially since in 10 years we're going to reach unspeakable climate tipping points. And what else? What other tenets of this culture should there be that really we're not seeing enough of these days?
Yeah, so I think what we can do is learn from the native people in this land, and in any other area, not just this country, but native people in general who have been colonized. How have they been surviving? They've been growing their own food. They've been collecting things that have already existed for years. There are natural natural landmarks. So when you think of like a city landmark, you're thinking of, oh, turn right on wherever you see this statue, or wherever you see this fast food chain building. Instead, you think of a natural landmark as this tree that provides stuff, and it's partly where you live. So if you live in California, where we are right now, there's going to be a lot of oak trees. Oakland, where it was named after the oak tree. There was a lot of oak trees over there, and there still is, just not as many as there once was. And
we get back in touch with our natural surroundings, I think that would really
I think that's part of the ecological preservation
way. And kind of take lead from the people who have really been the guardians of this land for so long.
You understand the life cycle of how things work, in that you take something from the earth and it needs to be put back. And you can't just extract and extract and extract and think that there's no consequence from extracting.
Hey, and this was kind of like I researched this a little bit in college, just the connection between Western philosophy and how we got to this distraught idea of what economics should be. Back when the theory of private property was being hammered out by the likes of John Locke and so on, they weren't even fully aware of what the new world was. They just assumed that nature was a bounty and limitless. And these ideas are the kinds of ideas that are like permitting capitalists and oligarchs these days to just take and take and take without giving back, right? Well, you know what? It's clear now that the earth is very limited in its resources. We've explored every corner of the surface of the earth, at least, and we've just about extracted every square inch of land that I can imagine that's useful to us. Now it's time we give back, or else karma is going to really, really catch up to us. Like George Carlin said, the earth will shake us off like a bad case of fleas.
Yeah, and that's a type 1 civilization, or type 0 civilization there, in that we are totally dependent on the resources that the earth can provide. We cannot extend the amount of resources that the earth provides, because this whole solar system, the sun, is this huge, gigantic energy reserve that is just constantly emitting energy towards us. And
we're choosing to ignore that.
And we're choosing to be like, we don't.
Get out of here.
This whole gigantic energy source that is exponentially larger than the planet that we live on.
And you wouldn't have to fight nearly as many oil wars for that.
No, because it always exists. It'll exist forever, for eternity, for as long as your life lives, and the life of your children, and the life of your children's children, and so on and so on and so on and so on. Because that sun will last probably 1 billion years, maybe more. And maybe the planet will still be, habitable. That's assuming, if fossil fuels hasn't completely obliterated it. So that's
and nuclear warfare
obliterating
our society,
as well as any other kind of extraction from the earth, because at one point there just isn't going to be enough raw material to be able to create things, and then you're going to have to start relying on recyclable goods, and there's a lot to be had there. But but that's not this conversation. We're not getting into engineering.
Greta Thunberg really said it best. She said that she could not understand why people have these two modes that they switch in between typically. The typical person out there will switch between, oh, what despair, climate change is happening, awful, and then business as usual, after science class gets out and you're just picking between what movie to watch that day after school. There's a huge disconnect with most of us. We don't know how to mentally cope with the idea that we are facing these existential threats to humanity, which are climate change and the threat of all-out nuclear war and like nuclear apocalypse. But that doesn't mean we should continue to, now that we're self-aware of ourselves sticking our heads in the sand like ostriches, we need to get our heads out of the sand and really do something drastic to mitigate, not even to like turn climate change around, because I think we're beyond some of those tipping points, but just to deal with all of the fallout and all of the suffering that's already going on with some of these equatorial countries and the global south that is being impacted already the most by far by all of this, due to the fact that colonists ravaged their countries anyway, and they have barely any infrastructure to fight back in the first place, let alone deal with a climate crisis.
So
why do you think there's so many people seeking refuge in the global north? It's already happening. Like, Trump and all wouldn't care about building a wall if it wasn't already happening.
Yeah.
Guatemala is uninhabitable because of their crop failures, directly because of climate change.
Yeah, climate change will be the number one threat to this world, more so than COVID-19 is already proving a threat to this world. And you know what? COVID-19 is just the tip of the iceberg. And we don't mean to like scare you or frighten you, because there's a lot of that already out there.
And we're not trying to detract from the severity of what's happening right now. It's with people affected by the coronavirus.
There's definitely deaths and there's definitely suffering, and that has been life. And there's always going to be that.
At least have the decency to quit lying to the American people about the fact that we are built on democracy. At least spare us the...
Yeah. I could really use some virtue signaling right now. I could really use some, like, you know, like, let's pull each other by the bootstraps and, like, let's do this, America. Like, come on.
Fuck you. Honestly, if you say anything to me like that, fuck you. And fuck your friends.
Well, at this point, we don't even believe, even if you truly believed in yourself, not you, but mainstream corporate politicians who will say something like that. But I mean, I'll just leave it at that. I think what is really important to take away from this is, you know, whenever you think about, hey, I need some new socks, or I need some new pants, or something like that. I'm feeling cold. And instead of, you know, kind of impulsively looking on Amazon or on other stores online, or just impulsively getting out your car and driving somewhere to go buy something, you can look...
Things that we're all guilty of, by the way.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yes, absolutely. I'm not immune from this at all. This is something that we all have to work towards together. And it's going to take a large community in order to get it. Not just one of us independently. This is not...
There's no such thing as, like, individualism anymore here.
There is no... It's working together. And one way to exemplify this is, you know, you look around and what are the raw materials that you got? Like, you might have a blanket nearby, you might have some sewing material, you might have some, like, scraps out in the backyard. Who knows what you got? You might have a neighbor who might also have some stuff. And you're like, you also might have another neighbor that might also have some other stuff. And you kind of, everyone has, like, their own unique set of skills. Everyone grew up with their own thing that they all felt like they really like. and everyone is good at something, and they may have worked, and they may have some skills through work. They may have a couple degrees. They may be skilled in a very specialized knowledge set. Everyone has these things, and everyone can contribute. So if everyone comes together and says, here are all the things that I can help with. Me, I'm a pretty good cook in the kitchen. So I can feed people. Just give me ingredients and I'll feed people. Okay? And that's just one way I can contribute. That's just out of one of the many ways that I can contribute.
Yeah, you're being pretty modest right now. I mean, like,
so
it's a great cook. I'm the luckiest person ever. And also, I think you just have great leadership skills.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
So just not to sort of pat myself on the back here.
I'll pat it for you.
It's
everyone's got something within that, you know, is being wasted right now due to the nature of our society, and that is what needs to fundamentally change. That is what is going to lift people out of their depression, anxiety,
absolutely,
whatever. And
there are things,
medication also, obviously, if you need it.
There are things that you can do right now that you don't even know you can do, and that's how inspiring it is. You don't even know that you can do these things. The circumstance
demands that these extraordinary acts of kindness and goodwill come from out of you, and that's because I think as human beings, that's how we are wired to operate. And right now, however we've been wired, it's
completely against the grain,
dormant.
Yeah, there's gonna be some things that we learn and we're gonna be like, whoa, I didn't even know I liked doing that, and I thought that was boring.
Yeah, all it's gonna take is for us to mass mobilize and just make a pact that if it is absolutely, only if it is absolutely necessary, are we going to buy into this consumer economy.
Yeah, so let me just throw a couple buzzwords out there, because if you think that we might be talking to you about some kind of very poor authoritarian run communist kind of society.
Oh, get over it.
It's not that.
Like, no.
If you think this is some kind of like hippie, like let's live out of a school bus and like that kind of lifestyle, it ain't that either.
We both sort of work in education. Like we're pretty normal, run of the mill people.
So
just average Americans.
What I'm saying is that it's, dang, I just forgot it.
If you think that we're suggesting some kind of like political ideologies,
no,
we're not.
It's all about the community that you create together, and that's a conservative idea as a liberal idea. It doesn't matter. All of these names don't even matter anymore. All of these ideologies, they literally don't matter anymore, because it's what you make of them, and it'll be the new culture that comes out. And I'm losing my voice right now. Damn it.
Well, I think it helps for us to be educated enough to, or like aware enough to be able to name certain ideology. I mean, like we should be able to expose authoritarianism. We should be able to recognize oligarchy. We need these terms, I think, to define all of the various ways in which we are being fucked.
Okay, I just remembered what I was...
Okay,
so a couple buzzwords. All right, so just to get an idea of what we're talking about. DIY. Do it yourself. What's another one?
Where are you going with this?
If
DIY.
If you do things yourself, you don't pay. Yeah, if you do things yourself, you don't pay money that you earned. That's hours that you put in. For someone else to do it, or for corporations to do it for you.
The idea is to just slowly or drastically fast starve the rich and watch them shrivel up and die because they're no longer parasiting. Is that too soon because of coronavirus? They're no longer
the movie Parasite
off of the movie Parasite.
Yeah, that movie Parasite is actually kind of interesting. Is that like it's actually the rich people who are parasiting off of us. We're the rich people.
Oh my god. You're right.
We're the rich people. We do all the work.
We're rich in non-monetary things.
If you pull up all the people, as we just said, and all the skills that people have, everyone has something that they can contribute to. And thinking about the whole do-it-yourself mentality, we do it ourselves. Okay. Another buzzword I just remembered: open source. Okay, open source is the idea that you can use pictures, code, design, all kinds of engineering designs. It's all open source. It's completely available. Teacher lesson plans, open source. There is no trademark, patent protecting it. It is completely open.
No more intellectual property.
Open and free to use for everyone, because there really is no property on knowledge. But anyways,
if people right here and right now are trying to capitalize on something like the coronavirus vaccine, something like certain medical supplies and medicines out there, like they are the ones who are truly devoid of the intrinsic riches that you're describing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get it. It's like it's a means, but it's not the end result that you get is that there will be people dying, and that's not the end result that you want.
Mm-mm.
So
you might want that, but not me.
Yeah.
Or him.
The open source DIY stuff is, we all come together, we can all create a plan. We can all be, I mean, that's basically what we are right now, is we're all constituents, we're all voters, and we all have in this country the vote, the democratic vote.
Not all of us, only the ones who are qualified,
the ones who are citizens and naturalized citizens, but other than that, no. But I mean, and
registered voters,
and are also registered voters if they register in time, and are also not incarcerated at the time of the election.
The list goes on and on.
A lot of asterisks, because, and a lot of fine note, and a lot of very, 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 very fast lawyers speaking at you about those asterisks.
Like from the commercial.
Yes. But other than that, that's what this world, this society, this country is all supposed to be about.
That's what they teach us in grade school, and then boom, you realize there's so much voter suppression that it doesn't even matter, and the media controls the minds of the ones who are lucky enough to cast their vote anyway.
Yes. So if that's the model that this is supposed to be, and you just continue off of that model.
I was telling you the other day, like, it's March 2020 right now. If Donald J. Trump gets elected again for a second term, I am going to lose my shit.
Yeah, the country's going backwards. We're making America horrible
totally lose
again.
It. Their kids in cages right now. Like, Yemen is just one giant pool of blood in a country.
Yeah, and if you're watching this and you're from another country and you're seeing this, we don't want to bomb you.
Nobody does, except for like maybe 5 white men in suits.
Yeah. We don't want anything from you. Like we want to help our own people, and we also want you guys to like prosper too.
We want to end the endless wars that we have waged in your lands.
Yeah.
And maybe we could use, like, that's one of the things that I think we could use our anti-consumerism as leverage for.
Yeah. So
one of the demands.
The whole, like, not purchasing and consuming will make everything crash.
All of us have way more collective power than the people who are in power want us to know about. But to me, it's like common sense. Why aren't we talking more about this? Maybe Greta Thunberg has brought it up a few times, like a global strike for climate change, and that's been happening, but not nearly on the scale that it should be. And the same goes for other related issues. Like, these are all intersecting issues here.
All it takes is the liberation of one mind, and make that 2, and make that 4, and then make that 16. And then you got a neighborhood, and then you got a city that is liberated, and they all work together, and they all democratically put up their skills, and they say, this is how I can contribute, this is how I can contribute, this is how I can contribute, and then this is how we can make it work. Okay? And
wean ourselves off this capitalism.
Yeah. And then there'll be 2 cities, there'll be 4 cities, there'll be 16 cities, and so on and so forth. And with each and every liberation of those places, that'll mean more or less, if you think about it in a different perspective, less reliance on the market, on the overlords that control all of American life, which is the markets, because the markets are like a god. Oh, you got to praise those markets. You got to go in on Sunday and praise those markets.
Oh my gosh.
Because if you don't, you're not gonna get the paycheck. You gotta go to the ATM, go on your hands and knees, and just pray to the markets, and money will come out of that ATM. But no, that's not what we're here for.
And what are the police gonna do? Like, find you while you're in your home self-isolating? Like, not even talking about coronavirus here, we're talking about like isolating ourselves from consumption. There's nothing remote there. You cannot. Yeah, you got nothing on us if we just hang out.
Yeah, there's a thing, like, you know, in this country that makes it so nice is like the individual freedom, and like police just can't like pull out their baton and say, purchase something on Amazon now.
Can you imagine?
They can't.
Why they have to get in our minds with all these commercials. It's like it's like psychological warfare.
Yeah.
But we have to fight back against that. And I'm sounding like I have a tinfoil hat on right now, maybe a little bit. Just cut me some slack and hear me out. Like, it's not like that. It's not a conspiracy. What I'm saying is that we need to reclaim our minds against the onslaught of just commercial advertising that we experience on a daily basis, and recognize that as an assault on our mental autonomy and well-being, and then train ourselves to mobilize, make a mental artillery, and fight back.
That's how it starts. It just takes one person and you spread the idea and you talk about it and you think, oh, how can this be feasible? And I mean, it can start with doing a little thing. You don't have to go full blown immediately. Just start with something small. And the more you do it and the more you flex that, then the stronger you'll be in being able to be more self-reliant and less dependent on all of these horrible systems that we currently support right now. So, you know, if you're thinking of switching to a credit union bank, that's a step in the right direction. Mm-hmm. That is a step in the right direction. And if you're thinking of switching your stocks to, you know, carbon neutral stocks, then go ahead and do that too. That is a step in the right direction.
If you're thinking of even like joining like a prison letter writer group in your area, or like just a social gathering after this virus is over of or a virtual social gathering of maybe Democratic Socialists of America or progressive groups, or Extinction Rebellion, then that's another step in the right direction too. I think it would be fun if it was all like all of us at once, suddenly drastic, not gradual at all. But you're thinking a little more realistically here.
One thing to do is to go to a nursery, not a baby nursery, but like a plant nursery,
plant babies,
a horticultural nursery, or you know, just a regular store. Even if you have to support them, just get a plant. Or maybe you can get one locally around in your neighborhood and you can go dig one up, maybe kind of legally, maybe not illegally. But you get a plant.
You can purchase it from a small business that's probably also hurting during this economic time.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to start perfectly from the very get-go. So completely don't even think about that. Think about what you're building this skill. You're not going to be perfect the first time, so you gotta get like the ideas. You get like a plant, a tree, or a bush, a fruit bush, and you put it in your backyard, and you get maybe 10 of them, maybe 20 of them. It really isn't like, doesn't need that much space, but you can put a lot in a little bit of space, and you'll be able to grow fruits and vegetables, and that will mean less visits to the grocery store. And that will mean you can make all different kinds of things that you never thought that you can make before. You can make jams, you can make jellies, you can make sauces, you can make all different kinds of delicious things because you looked it up on the internet and you saw, hey, what can I do with these things? And you're like, oh, all right, sweet. And you also got like too many apples or too many cherries. And you're like, what do I do with this? And you're like, oh, okay, well, I'll just like, you know, boil it down and make a jam. Or you like reach out to your neighbors and you say, hey, look, I got like a ton of these berries and they're going to go bad in a couple days and I need people to eat them because it would be a shame if they all just rotted and went to the compost.
It wouldn't even necessarily have to be like bartering also, because like we could just share in our abundances instead of having to have this like tit for tat situation in our economy.
I mean, that's assuming that your neighbor is also on board with what we're talking about. Because if they are, then
who doesn't like jam?
Yeah, If they are, then that's one skill that you have. And what are the skills that they have? They might have something that you need, that you can't do. And there are things that you can do that they can do.
Yeah.
And the more people that you get involved, the more well-rounded this skill list then becomes. And so, yeah, that's just one example, just growing some fruits in the backyard. That's a one tangible example because everyone needs to eat. And so I think by doing that would be better. You can also, if you, the science out there is like, yes, doing it in your backyard, it'll be fine. You can get soil tested for dirt cheap. Pun intended. Anyways, I think we're about done now. I just want to show your shirt because it's Radiohead. The ice caps are melting.
Relevant to our climate change conversation here.
Yeah.
Whatever is coming next after this pandemic and after the inevitable fallout that will take place in the economy afterwards and during, it's going to be so much bigger than Occupy Wall Street. And we'll be there.
Yeah, we'll see you on the other side. We hope that you're alive.
In solidarity. We are logging off now.